James, how are you?
Good, man. Good to be
We
here.
we um we were talking off camera. We've been on a podcast before, on your podcast, because you are the host of the Dirty and Driven podcast. And when did we record? How long ago was that?
Shoot, man, it seems like it was like last week, but I think it's been what, a month or two now?
Uh, I
I think it was
guess
Early December.
maybe early December.
Yeah, that sounds
Yeah,
right.
yeah, and we've been. Um, I had mentioned that I was way ahead on guests, so we waited to book until now because even now, I'm kind of this episode is going to be number 56. So, and I'm
Nice.
on 48 today. So, or this week. So, going to be a little bit out. But, anyways,
That's
so
good.
you are the host of the Dirty and Driven podcast. But what else is James Devinney?
Well, right now I wear a lot of hats. The biggest one that I probably wear, I mean, the one that a lot of people know me for is obviously Dirty and Driven, which is a podcast and a training company, as I like to say. We have our podcast where we screw around, have fun, but it's also consulting and training. Basically, what that is we help companies gain, train, and retain people, construction companies, I should say. We just see the need to funnel people in the door because everybody's begging for applicants, get people trained up, get them up to speed, especially younger guys have the target there. And then what can we do? What subtle changes can we make, for a good company or even a really good company to become a great company? What can we do to really invest in their people and help them do that? Things like culture building, core values, and installing things even as simple as like financial training for their people, things like that that's going to keep their guys happy. So that's the dirty and driven stuff that I do. And then the training part also is like actual physical, like training in the system, building a pipeline for your people because it's such a need and it's just going to keep getting worse. Uh, I'm a project manager and an estimator for an asphalt construction company here in Ponca City, Oklahoma. That's my main job, my day job, and I've been doing asphalt for 6 years now. So that's a hat I wear. And then some people also know me as a rock and roll bass player. So those are my three hats I wear.
I've seen that recently. I listened to your guys' album the other day, or
Hell yeah,
at
man.
least a few of the songs. I liked them.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that.
Was honestly, it wasn't really what I was expecting, but I liked it. I mean, yeah, rock music. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know
Yeah.
why I didn't expect it, but
Just kind of an alt rock, you know. So somebody that I work with was like, I was expecting this to be like heavy metal. I was like, no, not even a little bit, you know. So yeah,
oh
you can
well,
fading fast. I got to
yeah,
put a plug in there. That's
yeah,
been a
yeah.
project I've been working on.
How long have you been doing that?
I've been playing music for a while, but I've been in this band for probably a year and a half now.
Cool, cool.
Yeah.
So you've been a musician for a long time, but newly in the band. Is that about how long the podcast has been going too?
Yeah, I think I joined the band a little bit after I started the podcast. The podcast is about, yeah, it's about a year and a half old too. Come think of it. Huh. Time
This
flies.
by the time this episode is released, I think my podcast will be just over a year old. Like I say, I'm on episode 48, so we're pretty close to that 52 week mark. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's a lot of work. It's a lot
It
of
is.
time.
Yeah, everybody thinks it's easy, but it's like anything, people get into it because they think it's easy, but the good ones are the ones that stick around and keep pushing through it and working out their kinks and getting better.
Yeah. Have you had plans to leave asphalt once the podcast takes a different turn, or you need to be more involved or anything like that?
I go back and forth on that. I mean, I kind of just take that day by day. I love working in the industry. There's been times, obviously, there's times whenever things get hard and you're like, man, I really want to pursue this other path. And then there's times where you're like, God, I really love what I'm doing. So, uh, but ultimately, I do want to pursue like the dirty and driven stuff more, just because the gain, train, retain thing, that's going to become such an imminent thing quick. I think that it's going to sneak up on everybody for how quickly people are retiring out of the industry, because here in we're really going to start seeing it in the next 5 years. And then in like 10 years, man, it's going to be, you're not going to be able to find anybody to come and do work because all their good seasoned people are out of the game. They're retired, dunzo, or who knows, they left the industry because they didn't like it anymore. So trying to figure out how we can get those people in the industry and keep them in the industry is a big passion for me, just the whole workforce development thing. So I want to keep working in the industry, but it would, I mean, once I get enough clientele that I can't handle both, then, I got to make that call.
Yeah. Did Dirty and Driven start off as a podcast or a business or both?
The idea was always there for the business, but at the time, whenever I started it, I didn't really have the business framework set out. I didn't really know what I wanted to do. But just to get my foot in the door and my name out there, I started the podcast.
Yeah. And we had talked, you were talking and thinking about doing Blue Collar Fit podcast,
Oh yeah,
right?
yeah.
And
It was
I had the
originally
same.
blue collar health is what I was going to call it.
Oh, that's right. That's
Yeah,
right. I
yeah,
had a very similar idea. In fact, I'm this close to rebranding my podcast to Blue Collar Fit because I feel like I talk more about fitness than anything. But yeah, I thought that was interesting that we both had the same sort of idea, but then ended up not doing it either.
yeah, yeah. And the dirty and driven athletics thing is something that I plan on pursuing more this year. Like I've always it. I don't. It started off as just me. I had a shirt made that said "Dirty and Driven Athletics," and I wear it every time I do any sort of intense workout, or like I ran a marathon in it and a triathlon in it and stuff like that. And so it's kind of that, but it's also just a way to show blue collar guys that you are athletes, because blue collar people are, in my opinion, by definition, athletes. You're out there all the time, swinging hammers and shoveling, and it's an endurance game, right? I mean, unless you literally just sit on a machine all day, but even then, you're in the elements. Unless you're in a closed cab machine all day and it's relatively decent ground, it's an intense job. You are, in my book, an athlete, so you need to take care of yourself. And if you're not taking care of yourself, then your body, which is your source of income, is not going to work right.
Yep.
And so that's kind of where I had that idea. But I don't know. I plan on not rebranding my whole deal, but definitely pushing the blue collar or the dirty and driven athletics a little more.
Yeah. Well, it's so crucial too because people in blue collar industries use their body so much, but like I always say, when you're at work, you're not trying to make your body stronger. So, I mean, usually you're using one side of your body more than the other and wearing one side of the body out more than the other and all of that. And you're never going there to uh, chase strength, I guess, and try to build your body up in response to what you're doing. So, if you don't do any of that type of stuff outside of your job, kind of all you're doing is wearing yourself down.
Yeah.
It's like it's going to take a little while for people to kind of come around to that because there's the whole idea like, I'm blue collar, I don't need the gym type of, there's the people out there that push that because I think people they think they're too tired and stuff to go like take care of themselves somehow is the idea that's propagated.
Yeah, and I mean, and I get it. It's hard, dude. Like whenever I was laying asphalt full time, I would go to the gym after work because I'd have to be at work at like usually 6:30, and there'd be days where we'd work 6:30, and it'd be 7 o'clock before I'm off, and it's hot, 100 degrees out. And I remember there was one day I was gonna squat, and I show up to the gym, and I was like, dude, fuck squats today. I mean, it was a hot, hot, hot day. So I was like, oh, leg press. I sit down on that leg press. I did 2 reps and I walked right back out the gym. You know what I mean? I was like, this is not for today. So, I mean, you definitely have your days like that. But yeah, overall, you have to be intentional about the training, and you should focus on it. Cause like you said, you're using one side of your body. Well, if you're not strengthening that other side, then this one side is eventually going to start hurting. You're going to start having discs slip and you're going to have all those little things that all these blue collar guys have, your shoulders start going out if you don't do some of the reverse movements too.
Yep. Yep. And you had some back problems at one point, didn't you? But
Oh yeah.
not from work though.
Not no, not necessarily. I heard it. I was in the gym when the initial injury happened, but it was just bad posture over time, really. And then going to the gym, and I had a good training plan, but I was more about the number, how much I can lift. Like I don't even know why. I had no reason to be like that, but it was more about, how much can I throw on the bar and do, and even if my form's a little bad, I would always tell myself form matters, but then at the end of the day, I was just trying to put that more weight on the bar, and eventually, man, my back snapped, dude, and it's caused me. I mean, it's still. I mean, I was 21 when that happened. Now I'm pushing 26, and it's still an everyday factor for me that I have to manage and deal with because of poor ergonomic postures. And that was, I mean, and that was, part of that was from how I was working and, using my back wrong in the field. Some of that was from the amount of drive time, windshield time I'd have that I wouldn't do things to correct. And then some of it was just, gym stuff. But it was more what I was doing in my everyday life versus what I was doing in the gym that caused that.
Yeah. Well, a lot of injuries that you see happen don't even really happen because of job site stress. I'm chalking a lot of the stuff up more to how you take care of yourself outside of work.
Mhm.
Because I mean, if you think about what the average American does, whether they're blue collar or not, they get home from a long day of work and they go sit on the couch and watch TV.
Mhm.
And if you're working all day, breaking yourself down, not taking care of yourself, and you don't get home and like hydrate properly and do some kind of active rest and stretch and all of that, and you just go sit on the couch, I mean, all you're doing is destroying your back.
Oh, yeah.
So it's a lot of things that factor into it. It's never just one thing. And if you look at across America, the people are afraid of back issues everywhere. It's not just blue collar people. And same with shoulder problems and knee surgeries and all of that. Like everybody has those issues. So, I'm looking at it from this bird's eye view of everybody has these problems. It's not just blue collar people, but how is it trade work that gets the bad name for causing that stuff? It's
Yeah,
weird.
that pisses me off too
Yeah.
because so as a project manager, I work in the office and in the field. And I look at the age of both and I look at who has more injuries, at least that they're vocal about. And dude, the people in the office are the ones that are, they got to have a heat pack or something to help them get through the day. They're taking all sorts of stuff, or they're the ones that complain a lot or that'll even call in because, oh man, my back just hurts so much today. I can't even come in versus the guys that are out there every day laying asphalt, shoveling, raking. They're in a lot better shape typically,
Yep. Yeah.
and it's these guys are hitting the gym and drinking wheatgrass and all that. They're still living hard lives, but they're just physically in better shape. Some of them, they're gonna have to have knee replacements or shoulder surgery or something, but they they all have the issue, office and field. It doesn't really matter. I mean, you think of an office, you're sitting down all day long, most of these people, and they're not walking, they're not doing anything after work. They're just going. They sit all day at work, they go home, and then they sit at home. And that's hard on your body. That's really
Yep.
hard on your body, and you're not feeding it the proper nutrients and stuff like that. It just over time it breaks you down.
Yep. It's so many different factors. And I mean, I think sitting is worse for you than working a manual labor job. I
Yeah.
mean, if you look at how human beings are designed to operate, or at least how we've been operating for our entire existence, it's been moving, active, picking shit up. I mean, that's what we're literally built to be able to do is carry things, carry heavy things. There's not very many animals out there that are able to carry things with hands. And
Mhm.
somehow it gets a bad rep from people that sit down all day and then have back problems. It's
Mhm.
it's crazy. So that which is why it's cool to see so many people out there that are pushing this blue collar health and fitness deal, because I do think it's important, even though, in my opinion, a lot of blue collar people are in better shape. They just are. But you see people in trade work that are super unhealthy, stopping at the gas station, picking up a bunch of monsters and freaking rollers from I don't even know, hot dogs and crap. And that's what they're living off of.
Oh
And
yeah.
you're feeding your body and running your body off of that is not good.
No. And that's where a lot of people say, I live an active lifestyle. Well, you do live an active lifestyle, but you still have to pour into it. Eventually, it catches up to you. Like, I know guys that, and this is kind of where you start seeing the difference between health and fitness. Like, I know blue collar people that I would put in the category of physically fit. Like, they're a good weight, they're not obese, they can do everything that's required of them, shoveling, raking, bending over, picking things up, moving stuff. Like they can do that, no problem. But yeah, they live off of gas station pizza and hot dogs and I know one guy that his favorite snack is Sour Patch Kids with scorpion hot sauce. It's just that's what these dudes do, which is just crazy, but it catches up to you. And I've unfortunately I have seen that happen to many guys that I've worked with that, especially once they start pushing retirement age, shit, they don't get to enjoy their life after they retire. They retire and then they get sick and die. I mean, seriously, I've seen that happen a lot. And it's sad. It's really sad that you start seeing these guys, pass away at 66, 67 years old after a fight with cancer or some other terrible disease because they didn't they didn't think it would catch up with them.
Yeah. It's interesting because I've had a lot of coworkers and a lot of people that smoke and chew and, in general, don't take care of themselves. And the response from all these people is always like, oh, I don't want to live that long anyways. But what usually happens is they live at least to 60s and, retirement age. But after that, your quality of life goes down the toilet.
Right.
You're doing all that stuff doesn't affect how long you live as much as it does how good of a life you can live. And so it affects your health span per se more than your lifespan. I mean, obviously you're going to be dying a little bit sooner than somebody else who doesn't, but you're also going to be miserable because of
Mhm.
it.
Yeah, and I think that a lot of people don't realize too that they don't feel good because they put that in their body. Food is information, and I don't talk about this a lot on my podcast. I talk about it some here and there just because people don't like to hear about it. But whenever you eat food, that's literally your cells die and multiply, essentially, in the most basic layman terms. And so whatever you put in is what your cells are going to make themselves out of. So if you're putting in roller dogs, then your body's going to use that to basically turn you into a roller dog. You know what I mean? But if you're eating good food, your body will turn you into something good. So it's one way to look at it.
I would classify some of the people out there as roller dogs
Yeah.
in the trades.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. No, I'm sure people get sick of hearing it that listen to mine. It's like, come on, I just want to hear about work and stuff. But with
It's
that being
important.
said,
I mean, it is good to get that point across because
uh,
I think that it's important for people just to know that, hey, it doesn't have to be a big thing. Like whenever I talk to blue collar guys, like a lot of them are uninterested. It's just, I don't give a fuck. I'll die when I die. But it's just some small changes, man. Like, all right, like my boy Casey, who's the co-host on my show, uh, he loves chili cheese conies from Sonic. And dude, who am I to say, dude, don't eat your chili cheese conies if that's what makes you happy, man? I mean, he's in good shape. He's not near as like strict as I am on health and fitness and all that. I mean, but he takes care of himself. He works an active lifestyle. He's not in the gym every day, but he does, watch it. He doesn't go over the limit. And that's where I want blue collar people to be at, is like, all right, dude, you don't have to do the shit I do. Okay. I know that I'm an extreme example of somebody who like really watches what they eat and drink and do and I've got big goals to run ultra marathons and crap like that. I get it, dude. Not You don't need to be doing that stuff, like live your life, enjoy your life, but just watch it some because you're going to want to enjoy your life after work is over. I would hope, I would think. I mean, I do. I mean, I want to be at a point where I don't got to show up to work every day, but I can still just hang out and chill and not just be going to doctor's appointments all the time.
Yep, exactly. It's when people hear me talk about working out, I think people think bodybuilding or like you're in the gym every single day. I mean, I've only ever worked out 3 days a week the entire time I've been working out. And until just recently, I started every day, but I just added in like stretches and stuff. And even at that, I only do 30, 45 minutes a day when I work out. It's not that much. And as far as like the eating and stuff goes, I mean, just be mindful of what you eat. Just be
Yeah.
mindful of what you put in your body, how much water you drink, how many energy drinks you're pounding every day. Like it's little things. And I think what happens is people just don't want to think about it at all and don't want to hear about it, just want to shove it to the side. And it's crazy how quick it can get out of control because you start feeding yourself garbage and that's all you want is garbage.
Well,
So,
and I lived that life for a long time, man. I mean,
yeah.
I was pretty fat at one point in my life, and it's like right now I weigh about 175 pounds. At one point, I was 200, which I got up to 210 whenever I was in high school for a purpose. Well, 2 years out of high school, I'm still sitting at 195 on a frame built for 175. And so that's I finally took a hard look in the mirror, and I was like, damn, dude, you're a fat fuck. Like, which some people go 195. That's not even that much. Well, for me, that was a lot, man. And you'd flex and you wouldn't see anything move. It was kind of like you're like shit. This is terrible. So that's kind of whenever I decided, man, it's time to get it in gear. Because I mean, I'd go lay asphalt for 12 hours a day, or whenever I was in college, I tested concrete and I'd go to class all day and then I'd go test concrete and work nights and do it all over. And dude, I lived off of gas station food.
Yep.
So it was the life I was living then, and thankfully and I drink every night and all that, and unless I had a pour that day, but it's how it was.
Yeah. Well, I was the same way. And when I started working full time out of high school, like for me, it was more of I started to feel like crap and I started losing weight actually. When I graduated high school, I was about 140 and I got down to like 133 and I always felt like crap. I felt like absolute crap. I was like, man, this something has got to change. I was never hungry and I just didn't feel good. So working out was my solution to that. And it helped. I mean, almost immediately I went back up in weight and I'm sitting like 155 right now, which everybody always thinks I weigh 175, but my frame is I'm shorter and a little small. So it's, I think it just takes a point of not being happy with how you feel. And I'm grateful that I caught that early because
Yeah.
I don't know how it would have been after that. And I mean, now if I feed myself off of gas station food, I feel like crap. I don't even
Oh yeah.
like fast food or anything. Like it just makes me feel like garbage.
Yeah, I can't even stand the smell of it anymore.
Yeah, dude, it's like I drive by an Arby's and I'm like throwing up in my mouth. The smell of Arby's makes me sick and yeah. So I think it's being conscious and um yeah, being
Yeah.
mindful of what you do.
Yeah, you got to hit those lows, and I think a lot of the reason people don't is because they sit here and they say, "Well, I'll do it eventually," and then eventually never comes.
Yeah,
But you've got to own your lifestyle at that point and say,
yeah,
it's time for change, and you have to actually want to do it. And some guys just don't care,
yeah,
or at least they say they don't care.
yeah. I actually heard something today that I liked. There's 7 days a week and someday isn't one of them.
Yeah,
Yeah, someday isn't one of them, which
yeah,
is true. That's what everybody always says, someday. But it's just people don't care. If they actually did, they would want to make a change a little bit more.
Yeah.
So what I like and probably shifting a little more towards is highlighting why it's good and how easy it is to really get into shape and stay healthy, and maybe why you should in the first place.
Mhm.
So, so let's switch tone a little bit to work. Talk about asphalt. So you said you tested concrete. How did you get into doing asphalt?
So I worked as a landscaper as my first job. I was 15 years old. Um, I was not born into construction. A lot of people think I was or had family in it. No, my dad was a lawyer and didn't really. Neither of my parents did anything work with their hands, anything like that. It was, white collar family. Never, never even crossed my mind. My mom would always like if they had people come to the house, they'd always call people to come to the house to fix stuff. Well, anytime, my mom would sit there, you need to watch him do this, you need to watch him do this. And I'd always, why do I have to watch the guy? But I was always interested in it. I really was. And I always loved Bob the Builder as a kid. So I got my first job offer for a landscaper and light construction guy. So we did like retaining walls and we planted big trees and stuff like that. It's a pretty cool gig. It's a miniature version of what I do now is how I kind of compared it. Cause you're not hitting gas lines or main water lines, but you'd hit a sprinkler line, you'd have to fix it. And, you'd be building not roads, but patios. And so I learned a lot of just the fundamentals from that. Well, we went and we worked in the backyard of the owner that I work for now, the company I work for now. And I was probably 16 at this point. Or no, I was 15. That was my first day on the job. We worked there. And he goes, "Hey, don't say your last name if he comes out and talks to you." I was like, "What?" Because my dad is a work comp attorney who sues a lot of construction companies for work comp claims. So he goes, "I don't know if your dad's ever sued him. And if he has, I don't want there to be bad blood there." I was like, "Oh, okay, fair." So, I worked there for a while and never really mentioned it. And then it did come up. And I think I asked my dad, I was like, "You ever sued him?" And he goes, no, or if I have, it's always been very, you know, friendly deal kind of thing, whatever. So eventually we get talking and he knew my parents and it was all good, kind of thing. But then whenever I was 18, it was like, "Well, you got to go to college." And I was like, "Well, I don't know if I want to go to college." And my mom was like, "What are you going to do?" I was like, "I don't know, start a business." And she's like, "What kind of business are you going to start?" And I was like, "I don't know. I guess I haven't thought that far." She was like, "Yeah, so go to college." Well, there was a local contractor who uh, mentioned to me, "Hey, you should consider construction engineering or construction management," is what it was called at the time. And I said, "Okay, cool." So it sounded cool. I looked into it. I was like, "Okay, yeah, yeah, I could see this program being for me." Well, as soon as he heard that, I was working in his backyard, and he said, "Hey, I heard you're getting this degree. I would love it if you'd come and work for me." And I said, "Man, that's awesome. I really appreciate that. I really have no interest in building roads at all." So I left it at that. Just nope, no interest in building roads. So I went and worked for a building contractor. First summer, we remodeled some college apartments, and it just wasn't really my speed. I like big, fast paced projects that you go and knock out, and there's just cool stuff going on. So the road construction deal still wasn't in my mind. I thought maybe I just need a bigger project. So I was going to go build stadiums. That's what I wanted to do, was be a superintendent for like a stadium or something. And that was my dream and my goal. Well, then I spent some more time around like the building side of things, and then in a roundabout way, we had some guys come talk to us in one of our construction classes, and they're like, "Everybody thinks road construction is boring, but it's big ass equipment, millions of dollars worth of equipment, hundreds of millions of dollars worth of equipment on some jobs, and concrete and dirt and rock and asphalt. It's just pure raw, fast paced construction." They're like showing us pictures, and my jaw just like hit the floor. And as soon as I get out of that, I call the owner of the company that I work for now, and I said, "All right, you remember how I said I had no interest?" And he was like, "Yeah." And I didn't even know they did asphalts at the time. I thought they built like bridges or something. And I was like, "Can I come talk to you like right now? Like I just got out of class." He's like, "Let's go." So I drove. I was going to school in Stillwater, Oklahoma State, which is about 45 minutes from where I live. And so
on this computer. Well, we had a little technical difficulty there. I lost some Wi-Fi, happens.
It wouldn't
So,
be a remote podcast if you didn't.
oh, yeah, we were talking off camera. I mean, I like being able to talk to guests around the world and the country, but I do not like remote podcasts. So
Yeah.
it's just there's always something.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we were talking about, I think you were on your way to your current bosses to talk to him, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. So after I called him up, then I mean, we just went and talked. And I mean, I didn't even really get to the point of like, what do you guys do? It was just like, I want to build roads and let's try it out. And he was like, all right, cool. So first day on the job, I show up and I was like, huh, this is asphalt construction. I thought we were doing like concrete construction. I really wanted to do concrete. I really did. I was like, this is, asphalt, because everybody around me, I mean, you hear people, the asphalt naysayers are all over the place that, concrete's better than asphalt. So I was under that impression that asphalt's just a terrible product. Why the fuck do we put that on roads and all that? So I was like, oh shit, man, I'm working for the dark side here. I didn't even know it. And,
Well,
uh,
geez, have you driven on a asphalt versus a concrete? My opinion is way nicer to drive on asphalt than it is on concrete.
oh yeah, dude. I mean, and they're easier to maintain.
Yeah,
It I mean, concrete roads have their applications, yes,
yeah.
but I mean, for highways and roadways and stuff like that, asphalt is more cost effective typically, not always, but typically. And yeah, they usually come out smoother. And, everybody wants to say, well, concrete lasts longer. Not necessarily, man. I've seen asphalt roads that have way outlasted concrete roads, and I've seen concrete roads that we've out way
It,
have weighed out.
I think I glitched out there. Yeah, I, in my mind, it depends on where you live.
Yeah. Well, it depends on what you're building it on. I mean, if you have just junk soil and nothing underneath, and you don't want to spend money on base prep, which happens a lot, then yeah, 6 inches of concrete's going to hold up better than 6 inches of asphalt because asphalt's going to flex with that shitty base. But is it really going to last that much longer if the base is terrible? Not necessarily. I mean, if the base is bad, either pavement's going to fall apart.
Yeah, yeah. It's so do you guys get much freeze thaw problems over there?
Some, I mean, we get cold temps. We don't get it like certain areas of the country. I mean, like last week it was 0 degrees for couple days, but this week it's 60. So I mean, we have some crazy rapid weather changes. You see spalding in concrete happen. Um, Overall, I wouldn't say it's just horrendous.
It's interesting in Utah because we got to deal with a lot of snow and freeze thaw all winter. So it really depends on application. Um, I think asphalt does a little better here than concrete, but concrete still does fine. In my mind, and correct me if I'm wrong, asphalt in a place that gets super, super hot isn't as good.
Not necessarily. I mean, it just depends on what's in it. You can do certain different types of mixes, but overall, the heat, once it sets up and it's been down, it's rolled, and it's cooled to a reasonable temperature. I mean, sure, if it gets really hot, you get some heavy stuff, maybe. But I mean, here in Oklahoma in the summers, it'll get to 110 degrees for, I mean, hell, last summer, I think we had like 75 days in a row that it was over 100 degrees. And you don't see issues. I mean, you see issues in the sub base. That's where it starts. Again, it goes back to your base. If you have an unstabilized base and it dries out like that and it starts cracking, then you're going to start seeing a lot of cracks in the asphalt. I mean, so that's where you have issues, but not necessarily the mix itself.
Hmm, interesting. Yeah, I think it's just like anything like trucks and technology. People pick a pick a lane and they're die hard, only concrete, only asphalt, only Ford, only Chevy, that type of crap. So
Oh man, I had a guy the other day that I gave a bid to, and he has an all concrete driveway and this and that and the other. And he was asking me to do asphalt work. He had a concrete sidewalk even. And he's like, oh, can you take out a section of concrete sidewalk and put it back asphalt? And I was like, I can, but not the way to go here. And he's like, concrete, all it does is sinks and cracks. And I was like, well, I mean, asphalt's going to do the same if you don't, build it right. And he's like, oh, no, I just want the concrete gone. I wanted asphalt. Asphalt's way better than concrete for anything. And I was like, not always. I wouldn't build my house on top of an asphalt pad. It's like, I wouldn't want an asphalt sidewalk leading to my house. Not there's we do some asphalt sidewalks and walking trails and stuff, but in applications like that, concrete's better, and it looks better and it functions better. I don't know, but he had in his mind he wanted an asphalt price for it.
And who are you to tell him otherwise? He's gonna
Um,
think what he thinks. So
yeah, I even told him I was like, dude, I'm the biggest fan of asphalt you'll ever meet, but I really think you should do concrete. Nope. Okay. So
give
I
them
gave him,
what they want.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So it sounds like you always had a passion for at least construction and then kind of evolved to road construction, but you wanted to do concrete. Did you kind of develop a passion for asphalt specifically in the beginning, or did it take time or not?
No, I think I did it pretty quick because I mean, once I got out there and on it and saw how it worked, I was like, this is badass. I mean, my first day on the job, we laid 2 miles of road, and I go, whoa, that wasn't there. I mean, they had already done all the dirt work, they'd already done a different lift of asphalt. They tacked the road and we started laying, and I didn't know what to expect. And I was like, this is just big machines and trucks constantly running. And like, I didn't really know what was going on, but it was fast paced and everybody was working. There wasn't anybody standing around. And I go, this is pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah, it's cool. And well, I guess it's just been over since then because you were committed and in.
Yeah. Yeah. And part of that too was I wanted to stay in my hometown. And I have a little brother who's quite a bit younger than me. So my plan was to come back here and stay here after college and stuff. And frankly, the road construction business, the asphalt business was where I could make the most money. And so that probably had a little bit of influence to it. But I mean, also, I learned to like it. I mean, I wouldn't have done it if I hated it, but there was a lot of promise and opportunity and money on the table that it would have been stupid to pursue something else unless I wanted to move out of town.
Hmm. How does you guys are staying pretty busy, right? All the time.
Yeah, I mean, usually, yeah, we're
How
we're
does
very
that,
on the government.
yeah. So I mean, that's how most road construction is, if not, if not all of it, I guess, unless you're doing developing subdivisions, which isn't like for homes, which isn't very big, you know.
Yeah, not in our area, rural Oklahoma. That's another avenue I'm going into right now is real estate development, and so if and when the development that I'm working on goes through, it will be other than the one that is actually being built right now. It'll be the first one in probably since like the 80s in this town.
Really?
Yeah. It's really hard to develop in rural Oklahoma.
Wow.
And I mean, and there's a need for it. There's huge demand for it, but it's really hard to make money doing it. But we've kind of figured out how we can do so if everything goes to plan.
Why is that? Is there no money there, or is it because no interest, or what is it?
I think the biggest reason is one, construction costs are higher here. You have like, let's just say, well, okay, asphalt. So we're the only asphalt plant around. We have to drive 45 minutes east to the nearest quarry that meets spec material for rock. So we have to drive there with our trucks and drive all the way back. Well, that right there has got a lot of freight in it for rock. Whereas, a lot of asphalt plants, the strategy is we put a plant in the quarry. Now we don't have to worry about hauling rock and we go for it from there. There's several of them in the state like that. They sit in the quarry. That's what they do. You drive around like Missouri, there's rock everywhere in Missouri. So there's asphalt plants everywhere. So it's kind of hard to make it work there. So that's why like asphalt and concrete in our area is more expensive because you got to go a long way for the material. Another thing like wood, and metal, and building materials. Well, a lot of that stuff gets put on a train to the bigger cities, and then it gets unloaded off the trains in the bigger cities and then put on a truck and driven here. And so again, freight, we're isolated. So there's a lot more cost associated with getting material here. And then there's not as many people who can do it. So it's not as competitive. So people can kind of charge what they want to charge. And so it is a little bit more expensive. And then a house in small town Oklahoma is not worth, like, if you built a 3 bedroom, 2 bath house, let's say here you could sell it for, call it $200,000. Whereas if you go to like Edmond, Oklahoma, which is just outside Oklahoma City, that same house is $400,000. So that's
Yeah.
where people just, they're like, screw it, I'm not going to develop there.
Yeah, that's crazy. 3 bedroom, 2 bath here a lot of times is 500,000. So
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's just
crazy.
totally different market.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's a lot of, I mean, here there's plants everywhere and um pits everywhere because we're mountainous, so with materials is really no problem
Yeah.
for us. So there's developments going on all over the place. I mean, it's kind of sad to see because there's so many pieces of farmland out where I'm at that are just slowly being chipped away at and developed into homes. So,
Yeah. And you hate to see that. We had
yeah,
that big push happen. Thankfully, it's kind of starting to go away. But whenever weed got legalized in Oklahoma, a
okay.
lot of people bought up farmland and they just built these big ass ugly greenhouses all over the place.
Yes.
I mean, for a lot of people, it was like, I know an electrician, that's what funded his business getting started. He was a one man show and he scaled fast because of that was his oil boom, as he liked to say. And that's where he scaled his business was these. I mean, so they had an economic advantage to a point, but now that everything's regulated and there's not just hand over fist money in the weed business, a lot of these places are moving out and there's just now shitty greenhouses all over this nice farmland.
That's terrible. It's the
Yeah.
worst. I mean, it's almost like, do you have a bunch of development so all the farmland is leaving, or no development and the farmland is bought up instead by things like that,
Yeah.
and hopefully not turning towns into shitholes, because if you go to Oregon, they're on a slippery slope. All of the towns there are just, oh my heck. Say sorry to people who live in Oregon, but it's like I've driven up to Oregon, the town that's right across the river from Idaho, and you go from the Idaho side to the Oregon side, it is completely different. And because
Really.
it's all the I mean, they basically give out needles for um, people to safely inject themselves. So they've gone a little bit farther past legalizing weed to just drugs in general.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, do you see all the farmland bought up and turned into developments, or is it like all of a sudden now it's turning into weed farms everywhere? It's crazy.
Yeah. It's a weird deal.
Ugh. So you said you have a co-host. I haven't really heard much about the co-host. So have you guys been a co-hosting since the beginning, or did you bring him on? How did that go?
No, I had an original co-host, one of my best friends, and it just didn't really work out. He wasn't into it as much as he thought he'd be, which is cool. So he went on and I did it solo for a little while and then my boy Casey, he was my maintenance guy. I have rental properties and stuff and he was my maintenance guy for my rental stuff and he works for a pipeline company and stuff like that and he's roofed houses and done a lot of stuff. He is like the just whenever you think just regular old cool blue collar dude, it is this guy right here. Just awesome guy. And I was like, I asked him on a show one day and he's like, "Oh yeah, let's do it." And man, we had a lot of fun. So whenever my other co-host bailed on me, I hit him up. I was like, "You want to do this like kind of regularly?" And so then it was like every couple weeks he'd come on and then it just turned into let's do it every week, man. He said, "I'm down, let's do it." So he's been a huge supporter of the whole project.
Awesome. I've thought about bringing a co-host on. I just don't know how to make that work, you know? I don't know how to, yeah, just not sure about it.
Yeah. I mean,
But
no need in forcing it. Like I could tell that my other buddy wasn't in it. And so it was kind of just one of those mutual deals like, hey, do you really want to do this? I mean, it's fun, it's all right, but it's not really a priority for me. Okay, that's cool, man. Well, I don't want you behind this microphone if it ain't fun for you too. So, I mean, at the end of the day, like I'm not making money on this podcast, so I'm not, at least not at this time. And so I'm like, I'm not trying to make it a job. Like I want to enjoy doing this and hopefully spread value through it. And if there's people on here that don't want to be on here, then you're not doing anything. You're not having fun. The listeners aren't having fun, and nobody's gaining value.
yeah, I mean, that's the same here. Like, I want to keep it enjoyable. And the bad thing is bringing more people on is you have to make sure the values align and the mission aligns. And I mean, people change, you know, and it may sound good in the moment, but I mean, you know, probably as well as I do how hard the podcast can be and how frustrating and discouraging it can get, like, especially when you're starting and recording. So bringing someone else on to that, I mean, they have to be in it as
Yeah,
well.
and that's where Casey's just been a total dog, man. I mean, he's there was 2 times early on where I had the soundboard that I don't know what was up with it, but it would say it was recording, and then we'd end it, save it, everything, and it wouldn't be there. It just gone. It happened twice, and it it was frustrating, man. And I mean, it pissed us both off to the point where we were like, "Is this even fucking worth it anymore?" You know? And he stuck with me through it all. He was like, "Yeah, dude, it's cool. Like, let's make it happen. Let's just do it." And so
Let's keep going.
yeah, I mean that's what it was, you know, and having that kind of support in your corner is really awesome. But yeah, you got to make sure your value and your mission aligns. I've had people that have said, "Man, I want to be on your show. I want to be on your show," and I haven't let them because they don't know. Like, I want different opinions and I want different perspectives. I don't want everybody like me, but there's people that are very anti what I believe in, like the whole kids don't want to work or they don't, you know, and they have these whack ass opinions that don't make a sense to me. And I go, no, because you are not a positive impact on this industry. So why would I bring you on the show? Like you don't deserve the limelight for that. And that's, I mean, Dirty and Driven is a company that helps people build culture and brand and a mission statement and all that. And it, if I'm not following that with people that I bring on that represent our show, then it's not, you know, then it's kind of hypocritical, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, that's the same with me. I mean, it's interesting and it was interesting to watch my podcast go from not very many people knowing about it to people wanting to get on my show and take advantage of me basically that really don't have anything to do with my mission or what I talk about. And that specifically being like I talk about health and fitness a lot. And if you are not focused on it, I kind of don't want you on my show because it kind of goes against everything I believe, goes against everything I talk about. So,
Yeah.
I mean, but it's your show, you know. You could, I mean, people can't tell you what to do with it at the end of the day. So, having your I mean, co-host have to be on board with this and align in your values. That kind of goes along with what you guys, your mission is, anyways, teaching companies to be able to do that with their employees.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the more voices, the better, you know? I mean, I know that I get tired of hearing one voice all the time. I sure as hell get tired of hearing my own voice. I know other people get tired of hearing my voice. So it's great to have two voices kind of talking about it. And, you know, what's great about Casey is he's just, you know, he's quite a bit older than I am. He's 48. And like I said, I'm 25. And he thinks like most blue collar guys doing a lot of this stuff. Now he's down. He buys into all of our values and all of our stuff. I mean, he is a quality worker. Like I said, I pay him to work on my properties. Like I trust him. I know his work ethic. I know his value. And he's just a great dude. And, you know, he looks at it from the perspective of me talking to a business owner or a blue collar person who's well established, and me saying all these things. And he's a great voice of question to say, I mean, why? Why should I think like that? Why should I? And he asks the questions that other people are thinking. And it's really awesome to have that kind of push and pull on the show. He's not discrediting it. He's not arguing it, but he's just saying, well, why do you think that? Why is that going to add value in my life? How is that going to add value? Why should I do that? Why would a company think like that? And it's really it's cool.
Yeah, I mean, it's easy for me, especially to get into a sound box of my own voice, like you said, where I'm only hearing myself and hearing my own mind. And it's like having that other person there helps bring out topics and questions and avenues that you wouldn't have thought of other ways. So
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah, it's
Well,
cool.
I think we had something to discuss, didn't we? About your deal today, the indoor floor
Yeah,
pour.
man. Yeah, that's been a cool, interesting little project. Um, so at our office, where I work at, we had our bathrooms redone, and the men's and the women's, they just basically came in, they put new floors in, put new counters and cabinets, new light fixtures, just kind of put some lipstick on the old pig, an old bathroom. They just gave it a facelift. Nice, you know. It was an expensive remodel. It was a probably 50, $60,000 bathroom remodel. Not a cheap one. Uh, nobody thought to check the old plumbing, the old cast iron plumbing that we had. So probably 6 months ago, the bathrooms got remodeled. Well, about 2 months ago, uh, the women's bathroom kept backing up. And it was like, what the hell's going on? So we hired some plumbers, come out, snake the lines. Okay, they snake the lines. I mean, it was like the day after the remodel's done, it starts backing up. It's like, whoop. Well, some plumbers come, they snake the lines, all that. They go, man, these are old cast pipes. Uh, these are shot. Like these are, I mean, they ran a camera through it and they're like, you ain't fixing these pipes. Like it's just a bad deal. So finally it was like, shit, we got to do something. So it was either rerun the like new plumbing to the old bathrooms. And that would have been a bad deal because you would have had to take out the floor of, like, we call it the break room, but it's where our whole crew meets every morning. We do our safety meetings and stuff like that. You'd have to take the floor out of that and run it through the build. It would have been probably a $200,000 plumbing job, just an insane amount of money uh, to do that. And you'd have had to replace a lot of the floor. And it's a big office building. Like it's not a tiny little building. I mean, it's a good sized office building. So it would have been a lot of floor to replace. So we had an old storage room in the back, right by um the back wall. It was on an exterior wall. So it was, well, we can just empty the storage room out and build all new bathrooms and try that. And um just basically delete these other bathrooms that we just spent tens of thousands of dollars on remodeling. And that's what we're doing. So yeah, we used bottom ash as a cool little base for the concrete because it had a floating floor in there. So we had to bring it up probably 8 inches or so. That way they could pour a 4 inch concrete floor. So we used bottom ash, which is just one of the byproducts of burning coal, and it's a waste product. And we have a contract to dispose of it from the power plant nearby here. So that's really hard to get rid of, and it doesn't have a lot of usable applications. So, and it costs a lot of money to put in the landfill. So we have a big stockpile of it in our yard to just kind of use for dinky stuff. It's a great base for concrete, though. It's better than sand. So we put a bunch of that down, which was cool. And then, yeah, today they were in the office just pouring a concrete floor.
I was confused because I thought it was like they don't do concrete. Maybe they're. I was like, what's going on?
Yeah, that was just one of our concrete subs that we use a lot, and they came and poured it. It
Concrete
was
subs
no bathroom.
for yeah, deep concrete subs for like road road construction you do, or like I guess you guys do asphalt in general, so you could so when you go to someone's house and do an asphalt driveway, you'd be subbing out concrete for other things on the job or something.
Yeah, and I mean, but there's a lot of jobs that we do that we're the general contractor on, and there
I
might be
see.
curb and gutter, sidewalks, or
Makes sense.
there's one that we actually bid as a sub to the guys that were doing our bathroom, so we were their sub for this job, but it's kind of a crazy deal. Either one of us could have been the general, but we gave it to them because it has a really tight timeline that's dependent on the concrete. And um, so we have a oil refinery here in town, and there's a street right next to it, and big heavy trucks bring coke out, which is I'm not basically all the scraps of the oil can either be turned into asphalt or they can do whatever they do, heat it up really hot, turn it into coke, and they haul that out of there and they haul it to furnaces for I don't know what they use it for. They use it for blast furnaces for really hot big furnaces. What they do with those furnaces couldn't tell you. Um, Foundries, stuff like that, probably couldn't tell you. But they load these trucks up. These trucks drive loaded down this one road, and it's just shot to shit. It's an old. I think that there's maybe 3 inches of asphalt on that road, so it's not made for heavy trucks all day, every day. I mean, we're talking hundreds of trucks. So in the lane where they always drive out loaded, they're doing 7 inches of concrete with 4 inch asphalt on top, and then the other side they're just milling the asphalt and putting new asphalt on. So that's kind of a cool little job we got coming up. That's a crossbreed of a concrete and asphalt job. So even though we don't do concrete in house, it's still very pertinent to the asphalt stuff.
Yep. Yeah. No, I get it. I for some reason wasn't thinking that you guys would be the general, but
Yeah, we
that
do
makes a
a lot
lot
of
of sense.
yeah,
Yeah.
we do a lot of GC work too. Like not GC like a building guy where you just put a superintendent on site and he like you don't actually have any in-house labor. Like, that's what's cool about heavy civil is the GC is doing most of the work. And so that's if we can be what we call the heavyweight, which is just meaning we're doing most of the work, like, if we're doing the dirt and the rock and the asphalt and then we sub out some concrete stuff, then we will. Or, sometimes it's like we're doing another job. We bid to a concrete guy. There's a water line that somebody else is doing. Then there's sidewalks and curb and gutters and some concrete patching. And then we're laying a couple inches of asphalt and that's that. So it kind of goes sometimes we're the sub and sometimes we're the general. It just depends on the job.
That's cool. Civil construction isn't really a avenue that I have much experience with. So we're residential and I guess commercial building application stuff. So
Mhm. It's
yeah,
the same thing, just bigger
yeah,
scale. You
just
know,
different. Yeah, just different.
I mean,
It's cool.
we do both. I mean, driveways, highways, we do
Yeah.
all of it. 'Cause like I said, we're the only asphalt people in town. So, it's we deal with the residential side and we deal with the heavy civil side, and it's they both come with their set of headaches.
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes you wonder which one is better, and it's like, oh well, they both suck sometimes.
Yeah.
They both have their issues, and you just kind of have a mix of them, and then it's pretty good usually.
Dealing with homeowners can be a pain, and
It
dealing
is.
with the federal government can be a pain. They both
Uh,
give you serious headaches.
oh my God. I can't even imagine that. Can't even imagine working with the government.
If you've ever had like a Karen homeowner, you can imagine working with the federal government. It's the same thing, dude.
We've had, I don't remember if I talked about this on when I was on your podcast, but we had this lady that was in this nice city here where there's a bunch of big expensive homes. And my dad went through and painted out her back patio because it was going to be curved and stuff.
Mhm.
And she approved it and whatever. So we set our forms, and the next day we were there pouring it. And she was standing over us on the deck looking and was like, "That's not right." And we're like, "Well, it's on top of the paint marks that you approved. Like you can see right here on the forms are on top of the paint exactly." And she's like, "Well, the paint must have moved." And we were like,
It moved.
"What? What do you mean? The spray paint can't move? Does it grow legs or something?" Like, anyways, it's like homeowners like that, like if you have to have too much interaction with some of them, they're just crazy. I mean, imagine dealing with somebody that has nothing no knowledge of construction and they just want everything that's unreasonable.
Yeah,
So,
that's the federal government.
uh, yeah, I can see that.
I've been dealing with a bean counter that works for a federal organization. I won't say which because I don't want to get myself in trouble, but I've been working with a bean counter that he just I've had to I've been very polite and professional, but finally at some point I asked him, I was like, "Do you need my credit card number, my social security number, and my blood type? You know, what what do you need from me, dude? Because you are asking for way too much right now."
Yeah, I can imagine that. Man, what's your favorite thing about being in road construction?
I think it's just what sold me on it to begin with, is it's just pure raw construction, dude. I mean, it's fast paced. I mean, I go on vacation for a week and I can come back and it's like, whoa, this is a different job. Like it's that's how fast paced it is. And I love it too because like my experience in the commercial building space was there's your office people that they wear suits to work and um they're really more of just accountants and stuff like that. I know it's not the same everywhere, but uh it that was just mine. It was a very formal office setting, and then you had one guy in the field that was a superintendent, and he just managed the job. And that superintendent, I learned a lot under. He was a great guy, but it was just a different deal. Like the heavy civil one, I mean, you have guys that are managers and in big roles, but they're still out there working. I mean, like yesterday, I ran an asphalt roller for 10 hours, like because we were shorthanded. We had guys calling sick, and then over the winter we had lost a couple key guys. Unfortunately, one of them moved, and one of them just had to go. He had life problems, is what he had. So it was like, dang, So it really sucked, and it's just as we're getting into the season, I'm out there working because that's where I'm more valuable at, and it's fun, and I get to deal with the owners. I get to deal with state, federal government people. I get to deal with politicians a lot. And then I get to deal with just the guy out there that's doing the work. And those people are just awesome, man. The people that are out there doing the work. They're an amazing group of people. And I don't know what it is, but every asphalt crew I've been on I don't know, asphalt guys just have a lot of fun, man. They do. And I've been around a lot of different trades. And I think it's partly because there's so many people out on an asphalt job that they're just trying to pass the time and forget about how hot it is. But it's just fun, dude. It's
Yeah.
just a fun group of people. And it gets stressful, but it's cool, man.
Yeah,
It's just cool. I like it.
awesome. What would you say to some people, whether they're younger or not, who would want to be those people on the ground working?
I think that you should try it. And I say this a lot to parents and kids that are maybe teenagers that are 16, 15, 16, even up to if you're working a manufacturing job, you're working some other job you don't like. I mean, give it a try. But something that I tell parents and I tell younger kids a lot is just get a job. Just find something, see what you like. If you think you want to be a banker or a salesman one day, something that involves money, go be a salesman somewhere. Go work a retail job. If you think you want to be in the restaurant business, go work at a restaurant. If you think that you might be interested in construction or you have no idea where you want to go or what avenue you want to go down, go work a construction job, whether it be for an electrician or a plumber or an HVAC guy or just a general contractor or a road guy or a landscaper. Go find something in the wheelhouse and just figure it out because those guys, again, as we see more and more guys retire, that's where some serious money is going to be at. So if you want to just figure out what you might like, just go try some stuff. Even if it's just, hey, can I job shadow you for a day or two? Just gain as much experience as you can, as young as you can. Figure out which path you might want to pursue and start calling owners and managers and stuff like that. I mean, that's what I did. I mean, I just called up a couple I would call owners and just say, hey, can I come talk to you about your business? And I wouldn't go work for them all. I mean, I worked for a few of them, and just pursue it. Just find what you like.
Awesome. It's a lot of good advice there. Just get started into something, and you can
Yeah.
always switch up if you want to. So
Yeah. I
that's the
mean, I
cool
didn't know
thing.
I was going to go into the construction business. I lucked into it because I needed a job, and that was the highest paying job I could get at 15 years old. So that's why I joined it. And, and I loved it. So I stayed in it. If I hated it, I would have gone and worked at McDonald's or something.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's awesome. It's good advice. You have anything to leave off with?
No, man. I mean, just same thing that I say on my show all the time is just like we talked about, health and fitness is so important. Um, find something every single day that challenges you, what mentally and physically. Um, I'll just leave it at that. Challenge yourself every single day, or as I like to say, do something hard today.
Yeah, it's awesome advice. Thanks for coming on, James.
Yeah, man. Appreciate you having me.
Yep. A good one.
Cool, man. See ya.
Yep.